Hospitals are closing down. The hospital that I was born at no longer exists. And when I was born, we'd had to drive 45 minutes away to that hospital in the first place for me to even get the health care and my mom to get the health care that she needed in that time. Those are happening all over northern and southern rural Arizona.
Welcome back to the Around the District podcast. I'm Gabrielle Mazar.
I'm Nicole Brown.
And we're back with Claudia Kline. She's running for House of Representatives for LD8. And quick fact, the young voters are becoming one of the fastest growing and most influential voting groups, but they are still often represented in leadership. So we're here to talk to her today about young voters and why she's running for the House of Representatives.
Is it because you're underrepresented in leadership? Is that one of the reasons?
That is one of the reasons, but also I think representation is a big part of it. And I think the bigger part of it, though, is being able to culminate relationships with the people who are there and they feel out of reach so often.
Yeah, we hear that quite a bit from young Dems that they don't feel heard or listened to
or seen or talked to. Or...
Even though they're really involved behind the scenes. On a lot of campaigns and a lot of initiatives. So what are the top 2 to 3 issues you're focused on with your campaign? I know you kind of said it, but let's just make sure it's
clear.
Okay.
So environmental is obviously my biggest one. I think it's very umbrella term and it contributes to job security, healthcare, all that jazz. Education is the second one. As a product of public school, I'm super thankful to my teachers. Otherwise, I don't think that I would be here today. And then the third one would definitely be job security. I think that's like a big one right now, and like the affordability aspect of it, and kind of making sure that people can have good jobs that pay well and they're not going to be intimidated out of.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. Do you mean affordability? Or do you mean
because Arizona's a right to work state?
Yeah, because Arizona's a right to work I was thinking I was going there and I'm like, and corporations can at will.
Yeah, they can
do whatever they want
for any
to.
reason.
Yeah. So is that something that you want to focus on?
Yes, I think for me, working in nonprofit spaces, working in campaign spaces, or even I did teach very briefly, I think there's a lot of intimidation that goes on behind the scenes for any of these jobs. And so for me, it's super important that we can like address those with the right to work. Sorry, you'd said something else. Oh, and just like overall, like making sure that there are jobs. I know a lot of people have been unemployed for years at this point because there's not really job opportunities, or people say they're hiring and then they're not hiring. And I'm not sure what the statistic is exactly, but I think this is like the highest amount of unemployed Black women right now. I've heard that like handful of times.
Like 200,000 or 300,000 Black women lost their jobs in 1 year, a year or so ago.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And so that's something that I've heard more recently. I live like right next to like a refugee neighborhood, and so they were the ones who.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Black women are the most educated group in the nation.
Yeah.
But the least hired.
Right.
It's just crazy.
Yeah. I don't know the statistic either exactly, but I do know that I have been hearing more and more and more that people are looking for jobs are having a hard time finding jobs, and they apply over and over and over and over again. I think more companies are hiring like internally instead of hiring people, out of college, or hiring people that are looking for jobs and like moving from job to job. And it's crazy. Like, and especially, we have shortage of nurses, we have shortage of teachers. So people need jobs. We have shortages of jobs, but people still aren't hiring. Yeah. And especially now, like we talked about healthcare and people losing their healthcare, but we're closing down hospitals. We're closing down hospitals because they can't support them. They can't support hospitals because we need healthcare and we need the money to support these hospitals in order to keep them open, but we can't do that. So it's kind of this weird cyclical thing, right? Yeah.
And it sounds like you grew up in more like some of the rural communities who are impacted the most.
Right.
Yeah. When there are policies that come down that don't help the Arizonians, so Talk about that, because a lot of the policy, not a lot, some of the policies that are in place or that were even part of the bill, this big beautiful bill that's nationally or even the locally one, the one that the Republicans wanted had a lot of those same details in them. Talk about that from a rural perspective, like with your family.
So, as I mentioned before, hospitals are closing down. The hospital that I was born at no longer exists. And when I was born, we'd had to drive 45 minutes away to that hospital in the first place for me to even get the health care and my mom to get the health care that she needed in that time. And so, when things like that are closed down, like that's just one example, right? Those are happening all over northern and southern rural Arizona. Some of the other impacts that could eventually impact or link into the healthcare aspect of it is the environmental impacts, right? We have national parks, a lot of federally or sacred lands for tribal communities that are being depleted of their resources, whether that's water to build the border or, you know, forests. We had forest fires come through and we're not really protecting them the way that we should. And I think Arizona is just so beautiful. I love Arizona so much. I grew up outside all the time, like right through the hedge was the Verde River that I would play in all the time. And so making sure that we are protecting those, because Arizona is already in a drought. I think all over rural Arizona, we can agree that that's our number one environmental issue. In more urban places like where we are right now, that's not really face value. Like people don't really recognize that because we have tap water and whatever. And then extreme heat is like becoming more and more of an issue for everyday people. And when we don't have tree shade in some of the more desert areas in southern Arizona, that affects our healthcare as well. So for me, it always comes back to our quality of life, our healthcare, our access to healthcare. And then we'd also spoken about job development or programs that help you become certified in certain programs. Those are being taken away from rural communities. And my mom was able to get a certificate to be a nursing assistant through a program through Phoenix College that, Mayor Katie Hobbs was able to help implement. But those aren't programs that exist in rural communities. So a lot of people are having to kind of create their own source of income, whether that is I know my cousin, she lives still in the Appalachian Nation. She does like tattoos and nails, and that's the only way. And a lot of people are being pushed out of the homes that they know because they need money to survive, and there's just not access to jobs out there.
Goes back to affordability.
Yeah.
Right? It's all
it all comes full
affordability.
circle. It all comes full circle, right? Yeah.
Are you going next there?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
One question I wanted to ask that came to mind when you were talking about your mom. How did she feel about you running in the election?
So growing up, I used to always get like yelled at and be like, "Oh, you're talking back, blah, blah, blah." And then in high school, I'd gotten like a critical thinking award. And I was like, yeah, talking back, asking questions. And so when I finally did decide to run, my mom was kind of like emotional about it. And she was like, "Well, I'm surprised it took you this long." And I was like, well, my mom, she just started voting for the first time like 2 elections ago. And so I was like, well, it's because I'm just now old enough. So like I couldn't even if I wanted to when I was younger. But she also found out that you have to be 25 in order to run for governor too. So that she was like, "I'm surprised you're not running for that." And I was like, all right, let's pump the brakes, ma'am.
One race at a time. One race at a time.
Lots of responsibility.
Wow. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
But I am the first person in my family to even, get a high school diploma, let alone take on a challenge like this. And so I'm super thankful for the support of my family. I have people in my family who live in San Luis and Casa Grande and Camp Verde, and they have my little yard signs out. And I always think about like people who are canvassing their area. They're probably like, who is this person? And then also too, I have family that's been incarcerated and don't have their voting rights, but they're still out knocking doors with us. And I'm super thankful for the way that this race has made it so my family can start engaging in a system that they never really believed in.
And you got them to vote.
Yeah.
High
And
five.
it's a great,
That is so
it's
important.
also a great example to set for your sibling as well, and the rest of your family, to get them engaged as well. So it is, it's a great example that you're setting for other young adults, your family. And I think that's really cool. It's a really cool thing you're doing.
I mean, it's pretty awesome that you're breaking glass ceilings in your own little way.
Yeah.
But I got a job for you if you need one in the future, like as far as another election you can run for.
Yeah.
In the future. But when what's your call to action to voters? Because the primary is coming up in July.
Mhm.
And so what's your call to action? What do you want people to know, or what do you want them to do?
Yes. So initially, I had to change my website to be accessible in a few different languages. As I mentioned previously, that the first neighborhood I ended up canvassing was a lot of Swahili speakers, and I sat there with like Google Translate to be like, hey, like, are you registered to vote? But so making sure that people can have access to the materials in their preferred language and the information that I'm sharing with them. We have another link on there to check your voter registration, update your voter registration. I know there's always renters who are moving around and they get ignored or they forget to update their voter registration. And then I've met with a lot of independents who don't know that they can't vote in the July primary. So if you want to change it so that you can vote in the July primary, that is also available on my website. But aside from my race, it's been a lot about uplifting other folks along the way and making sure that people are getting connected with, the Arizona Corporation Commission, because that's like a big part of what I care about, that not a lot of people even know about, and making sure that you're telling your family. I know I had a little brunch with my aunts and uncles a few years ago to make sure we were filling out our ballots together from top to bottom, making sure you're signing petitions for propositions that are going to be in the ballot in November, and I think that would be
And
it.
vote.
And vote, yeah.
Vote. Don't just register, but actually vote.
But actually vote.
Yeah.
Make sure you check your registration to make sure that you are registered to vote as well.
Right. Well, just so you know, there are lots of people rooting and supporting and wanting to see like the younger folks get out and really get involved. It's just so important because we have to have that succession planning regardless of what side you're on, because everybody's getting older and aging out. So that it's a good thing what you're doing and running, and keep getting yourself in the game and see what happens in the primaries. So I'm gonna turn it over to my friend Gabby.
Yeah. So if you are in Legislative District 8, you can check out Claudia Kline. We'll have links to her socials and her website as well, so you can check her out. You can help volunteer to knock on doors or help her with whatever she needs. I'm sure she would be happy to help, and you can vote for her in the primaries, vote for her in the election, and hopefully she will win the Young Dems hearts this coming cycle. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yes, thank you for the
Yeah, thank you.
opportunity.
Yes. So this has been the Around the Districts podcast. Please share, like, follow, and leave us a comment and let us know if you have any questions, and we would be happy to hear from you. So thank you so much for following us, and we will see you on the next show.